Hello, dear doctor and friends. Here's Group 4 presenting for the tutorial session. I'm Shulin and my partner is Peng, who will present later. Topic for this week is research concepts and methodologies on teacher development in TESOL, and we make a focus on what we learned in last lecture, teacher identity. The article we choose is Identity Exploration and Development in TESOL Teacher Education, a three-dimensional space narrative inquiry perspective, which was written by two TESOL lecturers applied linguistics in Manchester Metropolitan University. This article is published in TESOL Journal in 2019, and this participant-centered empirical research mainly included the conceptual issues, research methodology, and its meaningful findings. Let's start from the abstract. The abstract introduces the research comprehensively. First of all, we can know this study explores the professional identity development. Second, we can find the object of research of 5 non-native English-speaking teacher learners from different backgrounds who were studying for a master's degree in applied linguistics or TESOL at an Australian university. Thirdly, the research utilized three-dimensional space narrative inquiry framework. What follows are the research objective, methodologies, findings, and suggestions. Anyway, it's short, but every sentence is informative and well. Now we come to the instruction section. Teacher identity is often defined as the way individual teachers see themselves in relation to their relationships with their professional settings and the society. Language teacher identity has become an increasingly central focus in language teaching recently, perhaps because identity is now defined as a multiple, complex, shifting, socially constructed, and a site of struggle, and thus a construct that can and should be intentionally influenced. This is what this article focuses: to uncover the impact of teacher identity exploration experiences on TESOL teacher learners, thereby making a case for integrating identity exploration into teacher education courses, to make it influence language teacher intentionally and consistently. The introduction has only one paragraph but tries to explain background information, state the problem, the research objectives. First, simple background information that the previous findings have shown that teacher education programs are favorable context for teacher learners to construct and negotiate their identities in line with their learning experiences. Then it talks the gap among previous studies. That is, little empirical research have evidenced how an exploration of identity within teacher education courses could be made more intentional and effective. I simply introduce this research. That's the first paragraph, and I think it will be better if the researchers write this section one or two more sentences to state the problem specifically, if the readers may get the problem clear at the beginning. The second part of the article basically echoes the literature review for this research. Definition, theoretical discussion, and utilized framework are included. Research questions are also proposed obviously at the end of the section. First of all, the author helps us have a clear understanding about teacher identity. They interpret that teacher identity is, first, manifested in teachers' self-perceptions as teaching practitioners. Second, influenced by how teachers are positioned and seen by others. Third, formed and likely inclined to reform through social interaction. Fourth, dynamic and constantly changing across time and space. Finally, involving as teachers participate in various professional development activities. Teacher identity construction is thus considered as a process of making sense and interpretation of one's own values and experiences in teaching and learning to teach. After this, authors shows some relevant concepts and theories to support the research. First, identity in communities of practice. Second, identity as social group membership. Third, identity of second language teacher learners. Fourth, incorporating identity work into language teacher education. Finally, teacher identity through a three-dimensional narrative inquiry space and the research questions. Firstly, they adopted Wenger's theory of identity formation as a theoretical framework. Wenger's theory of identity emphasized learning as a way of becoming, which is strongly connected with how one's life is lived day to day in a given community of practice. A community of practice is theorized as a group of people who share the same professional expertise and interest and work, and interact with each other via sharing knowledge and experience in order to negotiate and achieve common goals. Wenger identifies three modes of belongings: engagement, alignment, and imagination. The interaction of these modes of belongings help members to form different kinds of identification and negotiation with their community of practice, thus constructing their identity. Identification refers to how the three modes of belongings are exercised to enable identity realization and formation. Negotiation is the ability, facility, and legitimacy to contribute to, take responsibility for, and shape the meaning that matter within a social configuration. And this makes the negotiation a driving force behind the formation of new identities. Second, identity as social group membership. One's levels of identification with certain social categories will affect their sense of self. In the case of TESOL teachers, social identity theory is arguably beneficial for reflecting the commonly cited social categories of native English-speaking teachers and non-native English-speaking teachers. The third, identity of second language teacher learners. Studies showed teacher education programs provided a fertile ground for teacher learners to form and develop their teacher selves. The findings highlight the need to integrate identity-related content and activities as an empowering component into language teacher education. The fourth, incorporating identity work into language teacher education. What remains unresolved from previous study is how a focus on identity could be realized in teacher education courses. Encourage language teachers to actively explore their identity. Finally, teacher identity through a three-dimensional narrative inquiry space. This study employs the three-dimensional narrative inquiry space as a methodological tool to guide and interpret teacher-learners' identity stories. This framework states that for narrative inquiry to cover multiple aspects of participants' life experiences, Kalandinin and Connelly suggest exploring experience from three dimensions, including interaction, continuity or temporality, and situation. Interaction, conceptualized as a link between personal and social factors of experience, involves sharing life experiences through which the storyteller looks inward to their feelings, hopes, desires, and outward to extinctional environments. My partner will elaborate on this part. At the end of this section is the research questions. The first one is, how do teacher learners attending a TESOL teacher education program construct their professional identity? The second one is, how does involvement in identity exploration following the three-dimensional narrative inquiry space framework contribute to negotiating their teacher selves? This section introduces the series and framework step by step, from the old one to the new one, from what is found to what is uncovered. This is a good way to write an article. Readers can follow the thoughts and logic of the authors. As for the research questions, these are good questions, but my partner will elaborate on if they are in line with the findings.
Hi everyone, thank you Shulin for your excellent sharing. My name is Peng and I will explain the next parts including methods, findings, conclusions and suggestions for future research. My first part is methods. In this section, I will first summarize the main points according to the article and help you reflect the contents, and then I will share my ideas about what is right and what is need to be improved in the article based on my understanding and make a critical analysis about the doubts that I have found in this article. From Shulin's explanation in framework part, maybe all of you have had a clear conception about Cladini and Connolly 2000 three-dimensional narrative inquiry space framework, including interaction, continuity or temporality, and situation. Actually, this study employed the three-dimensional narrative inquiry space as a methodological tool to guide and interpret teacher-learners' identity stories. The participants have below characteristics. First, participants were 5 teacher-learners, 4 females and 1 male. At the time of the research, they were in their third, also final semester in a Master of Applied Linguistics or TESOL program at an Australian university. Second, the Australian Applied Linguistics or TESOL program offered coursework covering several aspects of applied linguistics and English language teaching, including introductory linguistics, research methods, testing and assessment, second language acquisition, and teaching methodologies, focusing on issues surrounding teaching English as an international language (EIL). Third, a majority of students in the program were from Asia, Latin America, and Europe, with a few domestic Australian students studying part-time. Students had various degrees of experience in teaching English or other second language L2. Faculty members had a PhD in applied linguistics or TESOL and were from various first language backgrounds. About data collection and analysis, first, this study followed the storytelling path of narrative inquiry research. Each participant attended 2 audio-recorded semi-structured storytelling sessions, 60 minutes each. The participants were guided toward sharing about various aspects of their experience in the teacher education program. The first session elicited stories about their professional experience, focusing on their self-perception as English language teachers before and during the study in Australia. The second session, 2 weeks later, explored how they imagined themselves as language professionals in their home countries after finishing the study program. In this session, they were also asked to reflect on their participation in the storytelling sessions. Additionally, the participants were purposefully promoted to reflect on interactive, continuous, and situated aspects of their experiences. Second, data analysis followed a general thematic approach, categorized as analysis of narratives, comprising 5 main stages: transcribing interview data, constructing narrative texts from the transcribed data and the field texts, sending stories to the participants for comments, coding individual stories, and grouping codes into categories, and conducting cross-story analysis and identifying emerging themes. After having a basic understanding about the main points in the article, then I would like to make a critical analysis. In my opinion, first, the selected participants, first of all, the number of samples is too limited, only 5 participants. Second, in addition, the author did not follow the strict sample selection process to operate, such as why choose these 5 participants? Why can these 5 participants be a typical research sample? Are the personal backgrounds of the 5 participants similar? Moreover, these 5 participants came from the same school and the same project, and did not choose the sample data of other TESOL projects of other schools as reference and comparison, so the data did not have typically and universally applicability. Third, in my opinion, recommended that the author choose first clarify the conditions and roles for screening data samples. Second, increase the number and the scope of sample selection data. Third, in order to ensure the applicability of experimental data, sample selection should follow random sampling sample selection criteria. Fourth, the participants choose non-native English-speaking teachers. In nests, there is no sample data of native English-speaking teachers. Nests. The sample selection is one-sided. As mentioned earlier in the article, the social identity theory is for TESOL educators and teachers. Development research needs to focus on 2 types of samples. One is N-nests and the other is nests. However, in the selection of samples, the sample data of nests is not taken care of, so the author's research is not thorough. However, return to the author's research question. First, how do teacher learners attending a TESOL teacher education program construct their professional identity? In Learning TESOL project, participants did not study the teacher's educational psychology courses, and the focus of the research question is to explore how teachers construct professional identity. So from the original author's explanation of identity, it can be concluded that the following aspects are included. It is, first, they are first manifested in teachers' self-perception as teaching practitioners. Second, influenced by how teachers are positioned and seen by others. Third, formed and likely inclined to reform through social interaction. Fourth, dynamic and constantly changing across time and space, and fifth, evolving as teachers participate in various professional development activities. So from the above 5 main points of the author's definition of teacher identity, it is apparent that teachers need to know educational psychology, and it is also beneficial to the depth of the research problem. However, the scope of the project does not include educational psychology course training, so the scope of the project selection is too narrow, and the content of learning is limited. These teachers cannot be used as typical sample data because the teacher's lack of knowledge of educational psychology may affect the authenticity of the data and the depth of the research questions. In addition, following Cladni and Connolly 2000, three-dimensional narrative inquiry space framework, including the action, continuity or temporality, and situation, the author did not use various mixed-mode research methods, such as adding questionnaires for data collection, so only a single mode of research is incomplete. The authenticity of the research questions is also very vulnerable to the personal subjective wishes of the interviewed teachers. So the suggestions is the author needs to increase further quantitative research methods, such as the sample data is analyzed in the form of questionnaires so that their research questions are more thorough and precise. In terms of data collection and analysis, there are also problems that cannot be neglected. This is another critical analysis about the original article. First, the data collection of the interviewed teachers telling stories at two different stages. The scope of the content is clearly stated to the interviewees, but the interviewed teachers are self-explanatory. There is no specific focus of the interview questions in the whole process. Therefore, the interview content of the interviewees is not standardized enough. The recommendation is the author raises the issues that the teacher will focus on more clearly, that the data collection process is more targeted, reduce the difficulty of the subsequent analysis of interview data, and improve the efficiency of analyzing interview data. Second, the author's two-stage interviews did not clearly explain why it was designed in this way. So as the reader, I cannot fully understand the purpose of the two interviews for the author. It is straightforward for readers to misunderstand that there is no meaning or difference in setting up two interviews. Third, in the second interview, the author asked the interview teachers to reflect on the process of participating in the interview, such as experimental design is meaningless because the core of the research question is teacher identity, not interview reflection. Fourth, from the narrative of the author's article, the method of analyzing data also has problems. The article mentioned that data analysis adopts a general thematic approach, categorized as analysis of narratives, including 5 main stages. So, however, first, the interview data analysis module used by the author did not analyze the validity or explain to the readers what are the benefits of using this module of interview data analysis methods, or what are the effects of the sample analysis of this study. Namely, why should we follow this? The research method only introduces the steps to analyze the interview data it is easy for readers to doubt the degree of one-sidedness and reliability of the analysis method. So the suggestion is the author should explain the reliability analysis and elaboration of analysis of narratives. In addition, the coding procedure is straightforward to make readers wonder whether the author of the analysis data has browsed more documents and the degree of knowledge reserves. The author's narrative is more inclined to extract and code the text mentioned in the interviewee's conversation by referring to previous literature reviews, so different interview data analysis will be different. Understanding subjective factors, knowledge range, and emotional factors will also significantly affect the range of extracted text encoding. These uncontrollable factors will significantly affect the quality, height, and scope of the interview text analysis. In addition, the person who analyzes the data is only the author himself. How to filter useful information from the two interviews with each correspondence for 60 minutes is something readers do not understand. So therefore, the analysis effect is very one-sided and does not have a broad meaning. Let's go to the next part, findings part. Recent language teacher identity research has emphasized the role of teacher learning in shaping and enriching language teachers' lives. And NEJA 2016, Trend 2013, etc. Their findings have shown that teacher education programs are favorable contexts for teachers' members to construct and negotiate their identities in line with their learning experiences. All of the literature review above support our further research. In this article, the author selected 14 text fragments and made a detailed interpretation of each fragment. From the findings, we can see that the author's analysis is very detailed and summarized according to the 3 timelines: before studying, during studying process, and after graduation. From the author, the provided materials can be summarized in the following stages in the teacher development process. In the first stage, they will encounter difficulties in coursework. In the second stage, they will experience professional growth, both in knowledge and profession. In the third and fourth stage, they will imagine future about themselves and explore identity in teacher education. Let me help you to reflect the main points in the original article. In stage 1, participants often meet difficulties in the following aspects. First, the most common challenge was to adapt to a different academic culture. Second, when discussing the cause of these difficulties, the participants mostly cited their non-nativeness and poor English ability. In stage 2, participants will experience gains and growth, both in knowledge and profession. For knowledge gains, first they acknowledged significant gains in their knowledge of principles behind several teaching methods that they were already familiar with. Second, understand more deeply how interaction can facilitate learning. Third, broadening knowledge and understanding of various language teaching issues gained through the program helped enhance their professional self-esteem. Fourth, greatly influenced by the recognition of English varieties introduced in the program. For professional growth, first, interacting with their lecturers and other peers within the TESOL program contributed significantly to their professional growth. They enjoyed interacting with lecturers and considered the teacher-student relationship a highlight of their education. Second, non-native instructors could be as good as native ones. Third, experiences with non-native lecturers seemed instrumental to enriching the quality of interaction within the teacher education program, as well as contributing to further negotiation and appreciation of the participants' non-native identity. So we can conclude that the participants experienced shifts in their professional identity. They transitioned from being confident about their English abilities as competent English teachers in their home countries to feeling less secure about their English proficiency when initially faced with difficulties in their studies. This change in situation appeared to challenge their linguistic identity. In Stage 3, uncertainty and appreciation prevailed. Mainly includes, first, the participants were concerned about how to apply what they acquired from the Australian teacher education program to their home teaching contexts. Second, despite excitement about returning, they recognized potential obstacles, most of which had to do with constraints in how English teaching is conducted in their home countries. In Stage 4, they explore identity in teacher education. For example, they use useful implementation of reflective practice, realization of self-development, and clear vision of the better preparation for future teaching. Next, critical analysis about what I think. In Stage 1, these two phenomena are widespread among international students. The author's summary is very accurate, but there is no further discussion to analyze the specific reasons. In my opinion, I want to add here, I think that English teachers study foreign languages in different language environments. In the EFL environment, English learning habits are also very different. For example, some teachers learn foreign languages by reading books. Some teachers learn foreign languages through movies, listening and speaking. Differences in learning habits have created English teacher learners of different abilities. High-quality academic English writing courses lack academic knowledge, background, and critical review thinking and writing in academic English. It takes a period of accumulation in their middle of the year. Because of the fast learning progress, inexperienced international students often feel anxious and doubt their English learning ability. In Stage 2, for teachers and learners in Stage 2, the teacher identity is on the rise. The author analyzes the teacher's usual performance in the article, but did not discuss detail in discussion stage and answer the core questions of research questions on constructing the professional identity. I add here, knowledge gains and professional growth have a promoting effect on professional development, but if teachers' learner and development are to be complete, it is necessary to increase the evaluation mechanism. Teachers can improve and recognize their shortcomings and areas that need improvement through evaluations from professionals, peers, and self-reflection. which is also helpful to professional identity. In Stage 3 and 4, Stage 3 and 4 are issues that teachers need to consider when entering final stage of development. They usually want to put the theoretical knowledge and the teaching methods they have learned into practice. However, restrictions are here and there. For example, the learning environment, student learning level, teaching time and progress requirements, and abandon the use of more advanced teaching modules. Therefore, when faced with these problems that cannot be solved with the learning knowledge, English learners will doubt the significance of teaching training and the practicality of the training content for teachers and the professional identity. In terms of discussion, the author's analysis is not thorough enough, but a pile of multiple samples and conclusions is taken, which quickly makes readers feel tired of reading. So the suggestions are: it is recommended that the author adopt compare and contrast method instead of a flat and straightforward narrative. In addition, in discussion part of the original article, the answers to research questions are not clear, and the readers are easy to get lost in the questions to be answered after reading the article. Therefore, it is recommended that the author adopt a question and answer writing technique in the discussion stage to answer and summarize the core questions around the research questions so that the article's structure is clearer. Let's go back to the article in conclusion part. The author's main points are as followed. First, regarding continuity, contemporarity, and the situation, teacher learners could write short paragraphs to describe themselves as teachers to be prior to entering the program, reflect their learning gains throughout the program, and make connection as to how their learning might influence their self-perception, and project their teaching life after completing the courses. Second, other sections of the portfolio might focus on the interaction dimension, where teacher learners reflect on the relationship and the interaction with their peers, teachers, and future students as they gradually integrate into the teacher education program. In my opinion, when I see this conclusion, I am totally lost in the article. I have the following critical analysis about this. First, the conclusion of the author's article is very abrupt and feels divorced from answering the research question. Second, the author's presentation in the conclusion part only conveys what learning goals can be achieved by participating in the Australian TESOL project Learning English Teaching Development, focusing on answering the outcome without a clear summary of how your suggestions related to the research questions and future research.
Hello, me again. So I'll continue to state the reflections about the raised issues. As our reflections after analyzing this article, we feel that teachers will be influenced by various reasons. If teachers are faced with a contradiction between external evaluation and self-evaluation, and the imbalance of external demand and self-ability, they will doubt and deny their own value and achievements, and it will affect their own professional identification. Therefore, a positive and correct sense of identity can enable teachers to make timely adjustments to their self-cognition when facing the difficulties. So, to integrate identity-related content and activities, as an empowering component into language teacher education is a real need. Teacher identity is dynamic result of interaction between subjectivity and social context. I think the solution should be start with the teacher's subjective initiative. First, improve professional ability. A strong professional competence is a basis for teachers to settle down, and the primary factor that affects teachers' professional identity. Teachers need to establish the concept of lifelong learning actively and autonomously to improve their own professional level, strengthen the learning of professional knowledge in their own field, update and improve the professional knowledge system in time. Professional basic knowledge proven effectively. I think this is the most effective way to enhance the identity of teacher. Second, cooperative development in community of practice. Based on the research, teachers' cognition is produced and developed in the special social activities that teachers participate in. In addition to learning from tutors or colleagues, friends, English teachers should also pay attention to the collective cooperation in a community to improve their own teaching level. The final suggestion is for the school administration. The school administration department should attach importance to the contribution of English teachers, care about their lives and provide them with help. School development is usually a non-linear course. If the management only repeats a certain fixed process in a closed environment, it is likely to stifle the creativity and individualized growth of teachers or schools.
Considering that there is no future research suggestions, I make up for the author and put forward some suggestions and directions based on my understanding of this article. Considering there is no future research suggestions, at the end of the article, the author did not propose the direction that can be extended, researched in the future. So I think the structure of the article is incomplete, and I put forward some suggestions and directions based on my understanding of this article. I think the following aspects need to be added. First of all, based on the experimental design method in the author's article, it is recommended that later researchers further study the difference between the professional identity of nests and N-nests. Second, to further study whether the learning difficulty in academic course is significant for the identity of N-nests, and to further improve the one-sided and the subjective solid color of the author's original text through quantitative analysis. Thank you for listening, and this is our Q&A. Have you ever been bothered by non-nativeness background during your daily teaching or study in TESOL teacher education program? Please share your experience and how you overcome it. If no, please share your opinion about non-nativeness background anxiety. Thank you very much.